I'm going to read from the Cosmic Space Case, Book 2, Early Escapades. This one is called The Sun in My Room. I have two to read today, very short. I was in my room and practicing being in a state of awareness. While doing so, the room changed to an outdoor setting. In the outdoor setting, the sun came up in the sky and became progressively brighter. Then I was back in my room, but simultaneously in the outdoor setting also, with the ever-brightening sun in both my room and the outdoor setting. It got to the point where I had the want to open my eyes and see if the sun was actually in my room, as it seemed so tangible. As I slowly opened my eyes, and the sun faded away. Neat. And Dwayne's view was that that's your real awareness with the whole of life. You can see the sun as the is, and as your house disappears, you've surpassed the personal self. The house represents the personal self. But you went back and forth to give you the experience so you can objectively see what's going on, and now the sun is shining in your personal self. Very nice. In the human part of ourselves, it's here. But all of a sudden you see the difference with your real awareness, and the experience is there. It's using the house as the personal self, so it's verifying that you have the real light with you. And I also called up this other one, which has something to do with a way that I reference things. I recognize my own way of recognizing things. And one of those is to see in sets of 3. And when we're writing or communicating or sharing something, it's good to have a 3-pronged attack, so to speak, or a sense of coordinating, and also you have the personal self, the psychic, communication, mental activity, and then there's also the real, universal we'll call it, or the whole perspective, or the real awareness. So I wrote down today, just now I remembered I had this once, AIR, A-I-R, is I don't know what you say when you have 3 letters that are, I forgot the code for what, when you have well, anything, you write A dot, I dot, R dot, or any of those CIAs or whatever, whatever that is, code for letters. AIR is awareness, intention, and recognition. Bingo. And provenant, via DUANE on that, or provenance. And it's also a providence. Those are the 3 of that. Oh, anyway, so the mass landing of the spacecraft, Kevin Smith Chronicles, was as anyway. I was watching the countryside below from my grandmother's house, and in the skies I saw all the star systems. They seemed to expand with tremendous light, then wink out of existence. I then saw what I thought at first to be lots of little planetoids emerging from where the light had been, and then realized them to be spacecraft of a kind, all landing in the fields in great numbers. Some crescent-shaped, others like little spheres surrounded by wings like mini Saturns. There was an individual who was dabbling with technology. He had been in preparation for this event. He had a place full of gadgetry. I had the sense he was a sincere individual, not a dark forces agent or anything of this nature. Then Val would enter the dream and told me that the people who knew of this individual and his work had been disappeared, disposed of. And Duane's view of this was simply, you're getting a hint of things to come. And Val is showing up as the witness. He knows, another huge confirmation of what's coming up. My reasoning for, I suppose, for sharing that or seeing that was to say that this day, every day, is very, from my case, independent or unique. And I look at the so-called signs and symbols and star positions and whatever as a code somewhat, or exactly many times, to look at what I think might be coming up on a certain day or during a certain period. And so today there is one where there's a lineup between the celestial, the Earth, Sun, and Andromeda, which is our partner galaxy that is one of the celestial positions that is very much a part of the Armada visitation. And according to the so-called physicists, psychics of science, that the great our galaxy and the partner galaxy, being Andromeda, are going to unify and are in a process of unification that will take some billion years or such, who knows, doesn't matter, but they're expecting this event. Yeah, and they put it out there on the internet and on the science feed or whatever feed I get that interrupts my usual service on the internet. Yeah, I get these all the time. These, like it matters that we're having some aspect of the unification with Andromeda, like right now, and we need to put this out there so everybody knows about it. It's really a distraction and keeping us from, it doesn't matter if a supernova is going to go off in 1,000 years, which it very may well, and is significantly or insignificant, depending, that it's related to the Queen of Orion, because Betelgeuse is a supernova star going to go supernova between 10 and 1,000 or maybe 10,000 years. It's going to go off, and everyone here is going to see this. Everyone will be able to see the supernova visibly, which means it's pretty spectacular explosion in space. And that's related. Betelgeuse, or Betelgeuse, the name of the star, is the Queen of Orion, who's still there somewhere, even though she's been banned, evidently. So I brought this subject up today because of the Andromeda connection. And Val has some other insights or relations, I think, that somewhere in there you may have some to share about this, or whatever we've been talking about lately. Duane mentioned, yes, also. So comments, and I guess I just wanted to say one other thing, that while we were driving today, that I noticed that there was a lack of oxygen in the air, even at the ocean. And I was going to ask, if you noticed that, but I've been noticing lack of oxygen in the air generally. I don't know what that is exactly, but I think that the lost ozone was mentioned in our conversation. I had a conversation with Duane about the lost ozone layer, and this is, extremely important for the natural environment as well as the trees. So the air and the earth. I will say, related, the woman running for Democratic presidential is an Andromedan. Her sun is lined up, well, it's actually opposite Andromeda, and she's born at the full moon in Andromeda, in Aries, at the conjunctive Andromeda. So there's something with her and Andromeda there. Maybe she's in opposition to the Andromeda in a way, because that full moon is in polarity there. Whatever, I just thought I'd mention it for fun because of your interest and or opposition. The other presidential candidate, and now there's only two, is also born at a full moon, which we just had a full moon here 2 days or so ago, and that was the day that, may I say, Val had his ex-wife pass away at the exact moment that the full moon was, at the exact moment. And there was other things there at the same time. Yesterday he found out that Tom Brown also died on that same day. Tom Brown is a famous hiker, environmentalist, and survivalist. Writer, very, very good books of how to be in nature and to survive, or just to thrive in the natural environment and really experience it wholly at some level, similar to the story that I first read about Kevin, the Kevin story about the sun. So that's all together. Yeah. Thank you, Val.
I just mentioned just a quick blurb here about Tom Brown. Remember old Harold Klemp from the corporation? In his books, he talks about grandfather, who was the mentor of Tom Brown, an old Apache fellow who was basically told to go his own way from the tribe. I mean, they had signs that he was to go out and just wander for the rest, for most of his life. But he did have this vision that he was going to train somebody in the old ways, Apache ways of basically tracking. Tracking is the main survival skill they used. Over like 4,000 tracks or signs they could recognize in nature. Anyway, the old Apache guy, he trained Tom Brown, and Harold, in his book, talked about the Apache grandfather seeing a white mountain lion on the rocks as he was hiking. And he mentioned that was a real guide appearing to grandfather. I just remembered that. It's neither here or there, but it was just kind of interesting that Peter brought up Tom Brown, and there's a connection there with grandfather and the real guides.
Yeah. There was one other thing. When we were watching Tom Brown's son share a 10-minute video about the death of his father, or the passing, what his life meant. And we were observing when we're listening to him, he was talking about it like it was a real event that happened, but also as it's almost like past tense. So he kept kind of referring to it as, well, my father was so helpful in teaching me all these things, and he did this and he did that, or I felt this. And that was all nice, but he wasn't really bringing it into the present and saying what his experience is now and how he how he can use it, and how it's being, the education is ongoing. It's not it's happened. My father helped bring it to me. Mr. Brown was very good with the earth and hike and surviving, but not about the real survival, not about the real eternal or whatever, the wholeness that is, the all is, and its connections our connections to it, which is one of the reasons for connecting with nature. So we will connect with all is by that, practice of seeing ourselves like the sun, as an example, as spoken by, in the story. So, yeah.
Oh, since we started on this line, one more thing here about that little blurb we saw from Tom's son, who kind of a eulogy about Tom. Well, there's three things I noticed. The one thing, this Tom Brown Jr. promoted awareness.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how even in the he was in the hospital. They took him to the hospital, Tom Brown. That's where he died. They're talking about being aware of the dust in the corner and, just every little thing about people's body language and everything. And the other thing that they use, the technique they use for their awareness process is asking questions, like, which in a way it's good, but then in a way it traps you because you're always asking questions. There's never end to questions. The questions would be, like, who made this track? How old was this animal? When's the last time he went to the bathroom? Which way was he when he heard the noise? Which way did his head turn? Questions after question after question, which does help your awareness with the physical, astral. But in terms of questions, stop asking questions, stop thinking, stop talking, and you'll be aware if you have the right intent.
And he's endless questions.
Yeah.
You kept commenting like that about the endless questions. Yeah, you keep learning, but yeah.
And then the last thing Tom's son mentioned was, well, we're going to continue with Tom's vision, which was teaching people about nature and, being a good steward of the land, etc. But what I saw from that is like, get your own vision, like you can borrow people's visions, but you really need to have your own journey and path and vision to make it, or else it becomes a restriction after a while. So he was still promoting the school, Tom's school in New Jersey, and all the things he set up, but as his son. But suggestion would be, create your own vision, your own path, your own journey.